So in this video, you're going to learn how to do some of the strategies for cleft palate speech therapy, and we're going to hold them within the hierarchy that we use for cleft palate speech therapy, which is the hierarchy of articulation that you probably learned in your artic class. But there's obviously modifications for the particular issues with cleft palate. So let's go. The first thing is discrimination. Now with discrimination, the patient does not speak. So let's say you can use the clown from Leaders Project. There's clowns, two clowns, different color skin tones. Or for older patients, sometimes if they're discriminating between a nasalized sound like the M and the P, I will write them down. They can point to them. But a lot of times if you use a clown like this and a nose, a mouth, and a throat, that's what you need to be able to draw. I'd like for the parents to be able to do it at home because for cleft palate speech therapy, the practice at home is the only way you're going to get any progress. And so that's really important to make sure that happens. Okay, so say this child is making a glottal stop for a P. Is that a mouth sound or a throat sound? Here's the P and here's the A. Well, if the child doesn't know, I take the child's hand, I put it here at my neck, and I go, Do you hear that? Do you feel the movement, like a little jump in my throat? That's a throat sound. How about this? Pa, 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 pa. Is that a mouth sound or a throat sound? So if it doesn't, I take the hand, I put it in front of my mouth, I go, pa, pa, pa. Make sure the child gets their hand there, because sometimes the speech therapists go, pa, pa, pa. Can you hear it? Well, can you feel it? Well, you already can feel it. It's the child's hand that you want to bring to your mouth. So then you go, ah. Is that a throat sound or a mouth sound? This is the child's finger, not yours. Throat, throat, pa, pa, mouth, pa, mouth, pa, mouth, throat. Once you're pretty sure, sometimes it takes a couple of sessions, believe it or not. Sometimes it happens in the moment. Do not work on the nose. If you're working on the pa, you work on the same sound throughout the whole hierarchy, and the child doesn't have any nasal emissions, you don't think about the nose. But you could be working with a child who, for the pa, does nasal emissions, or nasal fricatives, they might call it. Pa, pa, pa. So then you train them, put their hand, take their hand, put it under your nose, and go, Do you feel that? You won't have Purell with you. Then you have the child do the pa, pa, feel that, and then you go, pa. Is that a nose sound or a mouth sound? You see why you have to be able to make the compensatory errors. Pa. Okay, good. Let's say it's a co-articulation. Pa. You have to be able to make those sounds so the child can make the discrimination. So that's your first step, discrimination. The second step is single sound production. There's a bunch of strategies I'm going to show you. You need to do these with me. I'm going to repeat them so you can have them. Most students will go, I don't need to do that. I make them do it in the live class. It's going to be, I can't make you, but if you don't do them, I promise you will not learn them. Same thing with the parents. The parents will be sitting there. You want them to do it. So this is what I'm doing. The parents go, oh yeah, I see. They're really happy, but they're not learning it. Okay. One of the first strategies we use a lot of the times is the So what it is, it's a column of air coming up through an open hand. Then the fingers come together just the way the lips come together. And a gentle opening. Maybe the first time that child uses the velum for velopharyngeal closure. Do it with me, please. Good. We'll do it 10 times. Don't stop between the ha and the pa. Make sure it's very delicate, very gentle. Great. Now, if you're doing it for another sound, remember, we're just going to work, if we're doing the hierarchy, we're just going to use the pas, but right now I'm showing you the different strategies. So for an S, you might go, any of them you can do it. Say the duh, so the hands are now making the tongue going to the behind the alveolar, at the alveolar ridge behind the teeth. Okay, use that strategy a lot. Something I call the magic trick is often the child will get the ta, it's fairly, but they can't get the s, which is the high pressure, the most high pressure of the high pressure sounds. So say you've taught them the t, and you want to get to the s. This is what you do. You take the stop t, and you don't tell them you're getting to the S, because sometimes their idea of the S is they can't do it or whatever. You just say, let's do this with me. I want you to be doing this with me. We'll do it 4 times. Then you go, now let's just think about that. If they have a problem, go back to then you might say, now just think of the bouncing too. Let's see if we can do it without the arm. Now without the finger. Now you're going to do that probably 100 times to get it really in place. 10 times each, and then you send that home with the parents. That's a big sound to get, that you want to make sure it's in place. In English, you can also do the or okay. You can close the nose to eliminate nasal fricative. So if the child is saying you can close the nose, pa. If you close the nose, the air has to come out the mouth. There's no other hole. So you keep it closed. Pa, and then gradually you can open it. So here I am, I'm the child, the patient. I go, listen, let's see, pa. Do you hear all that air coming through the mouth? Can you feel it? Pa. Use your fingers like this, not like this. Have the child do that too, or the patient. Pa. And then you open up just a little bit. And pa, just a little bit. Pa. And you want to hear whether the same amount of air is coming through the mouth as when it was completely closed. Pa. It is. How about now? Pa. It's coming out a little bit through the nose. Let's close it up again. Little by little, you see if you can move it, and then actually move the fingers away. It takes a lot of practice. What you're doing is showing the child how to use that velopharyngeal port. Okay, how to close it up. Lynn Marty Greenham's an SLP in St. Louis. It's a wonderful SLP, and she uses nose plugs in therapy for nasal emissions, nasal fricatives. And I haven't done that, but I will. Other thing you can do is take the place of articulation to help you. So, for example, for the pa and the ba, the place of articulation for the nasal is so you can go, do this with me. Ba. 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 Good. And then little by little, you can open it up. Look. Ba. Va. 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 Ba. Get you back to the placement and the air coming out. You can do it at the end. Da. Da. Or the ga. Ga. When the patient has a class 3 malocclusion, meaning the top teeth are behind the bottom teeth, like that. This often happens with children with cleft palate or children with cleft palate and cleft lips, especially complete cleft lips, because the bones don't develop typically. Normally, they're not great bone growth sometimes, and so you have class 3 malocclusion, and you can't make an S with that kind of malocclusion. So what you might do is teach the child, the patient, how to make that bottom S. Now, I'm a top S person, but I know how to do the bottom S because I need to do that for cleft palate speech therapy. So do it with me. Bottom S 10 times. So it's all done here. Doesn't matter what this is up here. Practice it again and again till you can do it very fluently. It's a great help. I've worked with patients who've had good place of articulation, good production, no velopharyngeal insufficiency. They could not get that S. It was anatomical. You can't make an S when you're maxilla is so far back. So this is a great way to do it. So you look like a genius. You can get it fixed quickly often. Good. So there's something called the mid-dorsal palatal stop, and that is for the t and the da. It might be further back. So instead of teddy, they might say daddy. Instead of daddy, they might say daddy. Okay. So what you want to do is move that forward, so you can overemphasize places. So instead, I want to hear you say daddy, teddy. So it's way forward, and then little by little they can move it back. But I practice and practice and practice in the overemphasized position. Another one to do that with this is pharyngeal stop. For example, cookie. That's your pharyngeal stop. Move that forward. Cookie, cookie, cookie. Okay. Something to do. It helps. Use a mirror under the nostrils to show nasal emissions. So, for example, you can see, all my messages, but you can see the smoke, and why is that there? That's there because the air is coming through my nose. You want to make sure that the border of your mirror is narrow, otherwise you could be closing up the nasal passageway, and so it looks like there's no nasal emissions, but there are. You've just closed them up by this big thick border that often happens with compacts. But the other thing you have to make sure is that your mirror and the temperature where you're working is not close to the temperature of your body, 90 degrees or better, even 88, 89. Because the reason this happens, the smoke is there, is because there's a difference between the temperature of the mirror and the temperature of your body. So sometimes I've run into trouble with that. Another thing to do is use a tissue to see the movement of air. For example, here's a napkin. So remember, we do. Now you can maybe get that a little stronger, but then you could even get stronger by doing. So once you've gotten the air, so it's coming through the mouth, you may need to strengthen it, and the way you do that is let the child, the patient, see how much you can move this. You play a game with it. Another thing to do is make a ball out of the paper. And when you make that ball, put the ball in your hand and go, you can have a game. See who can do it the farthest. You always have to be super careful that you're not creating a co-articulation or something so the kid gets so excited about beating you, they're like, and everything falls out of place. Okay. Another thing you can do is take something, tongue depressor that's clean, not a pen like this that's dirty, and tickle the part of your alveolar ridge or your velum where you want the sound. So, for example, tickle here. Hear that? Da. That's what your tongue goes for, the t and the da. Whatever sound you're working on, or back here. Good. Look, use anything to work with the patient. Those are a lot of the strategies we use, but we're always modifying. And whenever you find a strategy that works, stick with it. You got to give it a little bit of time. You can't go through all the strategies once to see what works. Sometimes a number of them will work, but you just want to focus on one to get that sound in place, single sound. The next step is syllables. We use the oscillator spoke. So in this, we're going back to working on the puff. We go, remember the child now can make the pa, or we wouldn't be in this step. Just the pa, not the pa. It's the pa. Now we're in step 3, and we'll try to get that vowel, the consonant vowel. Pa. Often you start with a whisper in the syllables because, especially if there were glottal stops, it may, getting that motor going again may cause the glottal stops to happen, but maybe not. So, and I like to use my finger. I use my finger to show the patient, and then I let the patient do it. I see many SLPs that, oh, we're supposed to do this. This is not for you. This is for the patient. Just show them what to do. So again, this is the patient's finger now. Pa. Pa, pa. If you hear any glottal stops, go back to the beginning, do discrimination, do whatever was that strategy that worked for you, and then you're back to pa. Now you do this a lot. You don't bounce around. You do maybe 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times. I'm serious. Let's do it 10 times. Pa, pa. Count for them. Pa, pa. 4. Great. Pa. Good. 5. Pa. Blah, blah, blah. Then the next thing you can do is the next to another vowel and go through it many times. And then you can think about pa-poo, pa-poo. And when that sound gets real, the high pressure sound gets really solid, you might go oo-po-pee, right? Or pa-poo-po-pee-pay, and really get it ready, because the next step, of course, is your single words. Now, the single word level, go to Leaders Project, download whatever sound you need. We have many languages. Download the sound you need and go for it. Give them to the parents. What I like to do is, you can give them a dice. Sometimes I really think that's special. If I don't have a dice, I will, this is the Crowley dice. I don't know, I made that up someplace where I didn't have a die. And I make little pieces of paper, numbers 1 to 6, or whatever I want to do. I mean, if you make them not 1 to 4, you got more turns to play. So let's say there's 6 in here. Each one has a number on it. So, okay, let's see what you got. You got, whatever this is, 1. Move your dice, move your marker 1. Now the marker can be a penny. It can be another one of these. It can be anything. But the whole thing with the game, you'll see there's some video to show how it's played, which you can look at. But let me just tell you briefly. Every game has just one high pressure sound. That would be the sound you're working on. In this case, the P. Every other sound is a vowel, a low pressure sound, or a nasal. Low pressure sounds in English are the ya, wa, la, ra. Okay. So here we go. For example, for the pa, there would be, I'm going to start speaking in Spanish, pan. Pineapple. There's one. Anyway, have a look. We got like a bunch of them, 35 different words on each game. And you can just play, you play it with the child. You should make sure the parents can play it with the child. Then you send it home. I print them out on cardstock, sometimes in color, and sometimes I put them on regular paper in black and white. And that's what you want to do. They'll play them with their friends, their family, their grandmother, everybody, because they enjoy it. Just make sure you make it a game. The whole thing is, when you play, it's my turn. I got a 2 from however I got it. I move my marker 2, but the child says the words. So, pineapple, paper, right? Pineapple, paper. And on the last time, paper, paper, you repeat the sound 3 times. So I pull up a 2. It's my turn, but the child is speaking. I move my marker. The kid says pineapple, paper, paper, paper. Now it's the child's turn. He pulls a 3. He moves his marker, and he's speaking again. Pineapple, paper, pillow. Pillow, pillow, pillow. So lots of opportunities. There's over 100 opportunities to say the sound by the end of most games. Okay, another is phrases and sentences. Again, with Leaders Project, we have those books. The books, we have the voice and voiceless version. So we have a PB book, a KG book, a SZ book, a TD book, a FV book. And the reason we have that is because you can't write a book with just one high pressure sound. Same thing, all the rest are low pressure sounds, nasals, and vowels. So you take it, you read a phrase, the child or patient repeats it, read a phrase, you're only looking at that one high pressure sound. In the books, you don't have to worry about the pa will be there, but the ba, don't even think about it. Whatever that kid does is fine. It's likely when you get to the top of the hierarchy, when you finish this and you choose your next sound, it will be the voiced sound because it will probably go pretty quickly. But all you're looking for when you do the pa books, even though there's a ba in there, is to make sure the pa is correct. Then spontaneous speech. This is kind of hard. What we do is the slam cards, which you all know, available at leadersproject.org. And the reason we do that is because they require the language. A lot of language comes out. When you're listening, all you're listening to correct is the pa sounds that they make, right? That's all. So any other sound, whatever it is, it's fine. And then you try to do spontaneous conversation, but we know how hard that is. That's why the slam cards are so good, because that is spontaneous conversation. Again, only focus on that puh sound. Then you're done with the hierarchy for puh. It should be in place for spontaneous speech, and then you can go back. Now, a lot of people skip spontaneous speech. And then they can do the hat trick of getting them to say the sound they never could say before, but they don't get that sound integrated in their language. And that's another reason why people stay in speech therapy for so long. Okay, that's the hierarchy. I hope you practice those strategies.